Guess what? My record is officially out. If you've been listening to this podcast, you've basically been hearing the emotional backstory of this record in real time. If anything in this podcast hit you, there's probably a song that holds that same feeling. My record's called Attachment Theory, and you can stream it anywhere. Vinyl is available on my website. And yes, there are lyrics you can scream in your car. Go listen and tell me which song resonates with you. Hello there. I already tried to record this once and completely deleted the entire thing. First, I just want to talk a little bit about this podcast and why I wanted to make it. You heard a little clip of Look Up. At the beginning, every episode of this podcast corresponds to a song on my new record, Attachment Theory. And at the end of each episode, you'll hear a premiere of a new track. The episodes aren't about the songs. They're about the subject matter of the songs. Attachment Theory is a record that has a relationship theme. So every song on the record is about relationships. And this song, Look Up, is about getting your eyes off the phone and paying attention to the world around you and the people around you. And so this episode is about relationships and social media and the internet and how those things go together or do not go together more accurately. And it's funny because it's like, wow, everybody has a podcast, and it's like, why do I need to do this? Well, first, because I'm really passionate about relationships. I'm a sensitive, relationally driven human being. And I think they're very important. And I think healthy relationships are very important. And connection is very important to me. And I think we live in a world right now that is really valuing hyper independence. It used to be the norm that everyone had a bunch of kids and lived with their extended families and had groups and support and community around them. And now that everything's gone online and everything's become sort of disjointed, people live alone, which is fine. I live alone and I enjoy my alone time. I'm super introverted. But the problem is we get a messed up idea of what true social interaction is and true interaction with the world around us is. It's interesting. I was reading this book by George Saunders where he is analyzing short stories by some fantastic Russian writers and trying to teach people writing and what makes those stories great. And he talks about the Buddhist philosophy that when someone is teaching you something, or in essence pointing their finger to the moon to direct you to the moon is the ultimate goal, not the finger that's pointing you there. The idea behind it is don't focus on the wrong element here. If something else can direct you to the moon, whatever's going to direct your attention there is what's going to be the most helpful. Meaning, if someone else creates a podcast and they may be more of an expert even in the subject, but maybe you just don't relate to them the same way that you relate to someone else. It's the same when you go to a new therapist and you're trying to find a new therapist, and they may all be great and qualified, but one is going to have more of a connection to you. One is going to speak to you in a way that reaches your heart better. And so that's why I wanted to make a podcast, because for me, this podcast is like talking to a friend, hopefully for you as a listener. And maybe if your vibe is my vibe, you're on the same wavelength, then you can find something helpful in here. So without further ado, let's get into it. This episode, like I said, is about relationships and social media. We're going to cover online dating apps. We're going to cover something called hyper-personal communication, which is communication that takes place online or from a distance. We're going to cover phone privacy, passwords, fake accounts, and then how you can handle and navigate all this potentially when you're dating or with a current relationship if you're in a relationship. Okay, so online dating. I heard that relationships that start online are more prone to breakups. And of course, that's not always the case. Tons of people meet their significant others and their spouses on apps. So it's not like it doesn't work. But statistically, these relationships are more prone to breakups. And I was watching a talk about why that is. And she brought up something called hyper-personal communication, which is this state we get into with online communication, where not only are we crafting profiles, whether it's on Hinge, Instagram, whatever, we're showing the best versions of ourselves, but then the receiver, the person looking at these profiles, is also idealizing it because we all crave connection. So we're interpreting things through the lens of how we want to see it because we want it to be a certain way. We're idealizing it. And this also happens through messaging. So text messaging or messaging on dating apps, we have time to craft the best message and be wittier than we normally are. And also, since it's not in-person communication and we don't have all those normal cues and those normal awkward moments and everything that comes along with getting to know someone in person, we also idealize our conversation and our connection. So before we even meet this person, we've created this whole world and image of them in our head. And that can affect us in a couple ways. One is we get there and they don't live up to that expectation. And then we maybe not immediately, but maybe it fades more quickly than normal, or we feel that it does because they're not living up to the fake version. So it ends the relationship more quickly when they start becoming a real person in front of us. Also, it can do the opposite where it leads us to attach too quickly to the person. So we've created this image of them and maybe we dismiss things that aren't right about them or any red flags that we're seeing too quickly because we've already created this positive version of them or this idealized version of them in our head. And now we're dismissing a lot of the normal cues that would have been off-putting to us. Also, because of this, we become more intimate more quickly than we would if we were going through the normal stages of dating in person. Communication through text or online takes down a lot of those walls earlier on and allows us to become more intimate more quickly. And so you're forming an intimate bond before you really know the person, before you know enough about them to get a good picture of who they really are. And this doesn't only happen in the dating stages, it can happen if you're already with someone too. And what I mean by that is we're almost unnecessarily creating stronger competition in our heads for our partners at all times. So it creates an instability because, especially if you're following a bunch of potential backups or people that you're attracted to online, your partner, your real life partner who you're dealing with in person, is having to compete with whatever number of people online that you've idealized in your head. We're constantly weighing our partner's value against the value of potential competition out there in the world. So a lot of the time, our investment and our time, and of course, all the things we love about our partner keep us invested in the relationship. But when the competition is too strong on the outside of the relationship, it starts creating strife because you stop investing as much. You stop trying as hard in your relationship because you think, oh, well, there's all these other people out there that this girl doesn't seem to have that problem. And, oh, I don't like this about my partner and this girl seems to have it all, or whatever, this guy, this girl. And it creates unnecessary competition even when we're dating. Social media also makes it easier to give into our desires in an impulsive way. So let's say you are having a rough day in your relationship, you're not feeling it, and you're scrolling and you see a cute pic of someone or a hot pic of someone and you just double tap it because you feel like you're missing something and you're craving that. And so you want to, even if you're doing it sort of subconsciously, you're reaching out to someone else, even in the smallest way. And of course, that's going to come back to bite you. Even if your partner is not monitoring what you're doing online, it's going to show up somehow. Social media and dating apps make it so easy to instantly have a connection with someone without having to make any of the effort or overcome any of the hurdles that you would normally have, like having to meet up in person or calling them on the phone or, dealing with the awkward moments of getting to know someone without being able to craft messages and take your time and whatever else. So I think we have to be aware of the fact that all this is going on when we're dating online or talking to people on social media and remain objective about what is actually happening there. Are you really hitting it off with this person so intensely, or do you actually not know them yet? And so you have no idea. That's the reality. And then on a more practical level, what can you do to mitigate some of that? I would say I made the mistake of giving in to someone kind of love bombing me through text message. And it became a routine, like texting every day. And now you're having a lot of your space filled up by this person so that when it's gone, if it ends for whatever reason, you're going to want to hold on to it more than you would have if you had not allowed yourself to do that too soon. So don't be texting a person you don't know that well every single day, all day, or even a little every day. I mean, don't be talking to them as if they are your significant other or the love of your life. There's definitely chemistry and there's definitely spiritual connection and there's definitely things that you can feel early on. However, you still, on a logical, objective level, do not know this person. So you need to stay strong. and I'm talking to myself as much as anyone else, and not let them love bomb you, not buy into this, and make sure you give it time. And I would say minimize your online contact as much as possible and overcome some of those personal hurdles. And if you're afraid that it's going to come off weird to the other person, just explain it. Explain, I like to get to know people in person, and I think that text is not a real form of communication. And so we can talk on the phone, we can meet up in person, but I want to minimize texting until we know each other better. And I wish I had done that early on. I sort of did that a little bit, but in my case, I wasn't aware of this when this sort of pseudo relationship started because I had never dealt with it before. So I kind of did it later on, like, oh, maybe we shouldn't text as much. And doing a lot of the stuff after the fact is harder to adhere to after you've already started the pattern. So make sure you do it up front. You have this as a conscious thing in your head, no matter who you're dealing with. And you make sure you give yourself time to really get to know them in person before you start filling up your life with them, being too affectionate, etc.
Okay, quick pause because I need to tell you something important. I'm going on tour. If you want to hear attachment theory in the flesh and be loud and cathartic and a little chaotic and romantic and have fun, come out to a show. I would love to see you in person. All the dates and ticket links are in the description or my website, aubreysellers.com. Come hang out with me. I promise it's better than overthinking alone.
Another thing we're dealing with when we're already in a relationship with social media and the internet is how much privacy you have from your partner on your phone. I was in a long-term relationship where we had been together for a long time, and this person, I was trying to log into Hulu on the TV and he didn't want me to have his password. And that was a huge red flag to me because why? I mean, I understand if someone maybe has in the past had someone going through all their stuff or they're scared of that kind of thing. But for me, if someone's this guarded, it creates, in and of itself, it's creating instability. And you're putting up a wall, it feels like you're sort of trying to hide something. I was in a even longer, very secure relationship, and we had each other's passwords to phones, whatever else. It just naturally happens over time, and you don't really have anything to hide if you're not being sketched. So in my opinion, that's just something that happens naturally. It's not about being codependent or engulfing each other. It's just about naturally sharing your lives and being comfortable and secure in the fact that each other are not going to abuse the access that you've given each other. And if they do, that's a conversation you can have when it happens or a boundary you can put up. But to preemptively do that, especially when you're already pretty deep in a relationship, is a red flag, I think, of avoidance and a fact that you're either hiding something or you're not truly comfortable with another person getting to know you or having access to you, and therefore not really ready for a real intimate relationship. And see, that's the thing. I think a lot of people think, oh, it's social media, it's internet, it's this, it's that, and it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But this is the world we live in now. And these things are reflections of what's going on inside of you and reflections of how you handle yourself and your values and how you're able to truly be in a relationship with another person. And another thing I never thought I would have to deal with, but did, was the same person who was hiding or didn't want me to have his password ended up having fake accounts, social media accounts that he didn't want anyone to see, including me. And, I said, I'm not okay with that, really, because why? It's creating instability where there doesn't need to be any. It's creating mistrust where there doesn't need to be any, especially if you've been together for a long time. And then, I end up seeing this page and he's posting about other girls on there and calling features about them ideal. And I think in his world, because he'd never been in a serious relationship, this was just like an extension of his thoughts. But it's not. It's even if you aren't following your friends on there, you're online, you're engaging with other real people, you're putting things out into the world. When you have a partner, it's quite honestly just disrespectful to be talking about other girls and doing all this other stuff on an account that's private. And the reason I'm telling this story is because, these are things I dealt with that I never even thought to question or look into, because why would someone even be doing that? But I think it's important to share these experiences so that people can go, okay, these are things I need to think about when I'm dating or in my relationship. And how can we have proactive conversations about that? That's something I think a lot of people don't do. is have that conversation early on when things are starting to get serious. And of course, if you're already in a relationship, you can have it now. But if you're dating and something is getting a little more serious, and some of this stuff can naturally comes up on its own if you're talking about relationships, past relationships, or whatever else when you're dating someone, before you're actually going to sit down and make a commitment to each other to not see anyone else and whatever, I think it's important to talk about what do you consider cheating? What do you consider inappropriate? And where are your boundaries with social media and that stuff in general? First of all, if I see these behaviors, the behaviors that I don't like, red flags for me are a guy who's following a ton of girls, especially like thirst trap accounts and engaging with them already. Sure, he's single, but if he's putting that much energy into that, there's something off there. I went out with one guy who I liked, and then he followed me on social media and I saw that behavior online and I declined a second date because you don't want to get yourself in a position where things are already starting out weird and as a struggle. And like, why are you doing that? If you're really ready to date someone and that's what you want in your life, then you should be putting your energy into that, having a real healthy relationship. Those types of behaviors are not conducive to that. So cut them off. Cut them off before, you get invested, and start from a place where the person feels ready. Then when you're ready to commit, you can have a conversation, sit down and say, these are the things that I consider inappropriate. These are where my lines are. Where are yours? What do you think about this? And see how that conversation feels, how he or she handles the conversation. Do you feel heard? Do you feel respected after that conversation? Do you feel like your beliefs about, for instance, how much contact, if any, do you have with exes? Do you follow them on social media? Do you talk to them? All that kind of stuff needs to be discussed up front so that when or if a boundary or line is crossed, you know that you talked about it already. You know that they purposely crossed that line. If you don't do that, then there's a lot of gray area that allows for more manipulation later on and allows for you to dismiss things in your head when otherwise you may not have. I mean, that was the case with me in that relationship where I was dealing with fake accounts and password stuff. I had never dealt with that before, never thought that was even a possibility, didn't know to have that conversation up front. And then when it happens, they're going, well, I've never, I don't know, I just didn't take it seriously and I didn't know that bothered you, so blah, blah, blah. And then it's just like one thing after another. People who are ready for relationships truly act like they are ready for relationships. That doesn't mean they're perfect and that there's nothing you ever have to work through. But overall, they come ready and open and willing to work with you and share their lives with you and be open with you and be supportive. And that's why I think it's important to pay attention to these things early on and have these conversations early on. I've made these mistakes, so you don't have to. I'm telling you these stories so you know that these are possibilities. And maybe you can avoid this by doing this preemptively instead of learning later. Look up, this song I'm about to play is about paying attention to the world around you and the people in front of you and not becoming addicted to the dopamine hit of whatever you're looking at on your phone when you've got loved ones sitting there and you've got a beautiful sky above you and you've got life to live and you don't need to be glued to a little box in your hand. I think if we all put more effort into who's in front of us and what's in front of us, we will be happier and healthier, and the world would be a more beautiful place. See you next time.
Fireworks and fireflies lighting up the summer sky. It's going down in real time, but you don't see it. A garden growing
If you've got a love question, a pattern you can't seem to break, or something you need clarity on, this is your sign to submit a question to the Attachment Theory Love Line. You can find the link in the show notes and my bio anytime. If this episode is resonating with you, I'd love for you to follow the show and share it with someone who might need it. Each episode is inspired by a song from my upcoming record, Attachment Theory. You can find the music wherever you listen and follow me on socials at Aubrey Sellers.
See you next time.